Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is Ask Chris, episode 5. Basically, the way this works is people send me questions over Instagram, and I respond in the best manner that I can. I don't always have the best answers, but even if I don't have the best answer, I'm going to try and answer my ass off. And if I don't have the answer at all, I'm just going to not wing it. I'm just going to tell you I don't know. I'm an honest guy. Fuck that. Anyways, gonna get right into the questions today. A couple of announcements. One, I'm still running my 30-day free trial special on the Mastermind Training Group. I will put a link down below for those of you who want to try it out for 30 days. You can. If you don't like it after that, you can leave. If you like it, you can stay on. Very low price, $14.99 a month. You get all of the programs that I've created and designed, along with personal interaction over me on the discussion board and interaction with the group, a really great bunch of guys who are all on the same kind of journey. So that's enough for me plugging myself. Let's get into the questions. First question is from Harry Singh 7. This dude asked me a lot of questions. Harry, if you're out there, you ask a lot of questions. It's cool. I love you, but you ask a lot of questions. And watch all my videos, dude. I got a lot of answers in all of these videos for you. How can somebody benefit from saturated fats on their diet if they are still eating a moderate to high amount of carbohydrates? Well, to separate this question and break it down to its simplest form, the biggest thing you have to be concerned with when you're consuming saturated fat is not the amount of carbohydrates you're eating, but it's your levels of blood sugar. Specifically, your consistent levels of blood sugar. If you have consistently high blood sugar, you're going to raise your levels of total body chronic inflammation. And you combine that with saturated fats, which bind to glucose molecules and actually cause them to stick around in the bloodstream for a long time. That can cause a lot of inflammation in your arterial system, which can lead to heart disease. And so you really want to be concerned with what your levels of blood sugar are. Now, I've constantly recommended for people to go and get their hemoglobin A1C tested. And if you have a high hemoglobin A1C, that means that, well, one, you should be lowering your carbohydrate levels and trying to work on your insulin sensitivity. But two, you should also try to keep your levels of saturated fat to moderate levels. How can you benefit from including saturated fat in your diet? Well, the biggest way you can benefit is hormonally. Saturated fat is a precursor for a lot of sex hormones, progesterone and testosterone. It is also really good for brain health if it's not causing inflammation, of course. Helps to give cells their necessary stiffness and consistency, right? So much of your body, much of your brain is made up of saturated fat. And so it's a big part of constructing cells and making sure that they have their necessary stiffness and consistency. And so if your diet is low in saturated fat or extremely low in saturated fat, then your body's really not going to be functioning like it should. And your sex drive is going to be lower. Your cognitive sharpness is going to decline. So generally, that's why I recommend, if you're not on a keto diet, at least keeping it to a moderate level carbohydrate diet. Unless you are completely vegan, in which I'm not downing vegans. I think that that's a good diet protocol in and of itself. There is no reason for you to be on extremely high levels of carbohydrates, especially that which a lot of other fitness professionals are recommending. Basically, what that's going to do is it's going to make your blood sugar levels go up and down and up and down, send you into a state where you are constantly tired toward the middle of the day, and pretty much the only thing you're going to have energy for is when you go and work out. Keeping your carbohydrate levels to a moderate level and really steadying out that blood sugar level is going to help your brain work better, and it's going to help your energy levels to become more consistent. Hope that was a good answer. Feed Me, Fight Me. Are you going to do any other recipe or cooking videos? Yes, when I have time. They take shooting videos. I do like 3 or 4 every week. And for this and for my other businesses, and it takes a lot of time. So when I can, I will. Absolutely. Reality is life. Chris, a while back you stated that I get shredded from eating steak and pancakes. Can you explain? Well, I used to do this crazy diet where I would eat once a day, and I would eat steak, eggs, and pancakes at my one meal a day, which followed my workout. And basically, what I was trying to do was experiment with myself with a form of intermittent fasting, but kind of demonstrate, because I was kind of sick of the whole brown rice, sweet potato, dried up chicken thing, and I wanted to try something else. And I wanted to show that you didn't have to eat brown rice and sweet potatoes and dried chicken and get shredded. So I tried it. Now, a couple of things that happened because of this. One, I went right into an ulcerative colitis flare up. My levels of inflammation went up. I got really lean. I was very muscular. I got very strong, but I also got very sick in other ways. I went and got my hemoglobin A1C tested, and the nurse practitioner looked at me and she's like, "Dude, you're pre-diabetic. What is wrong with you?" So she said, "Whatever you're doing, stop doing it." And that's when I started getting more and more into the ketogenic diet, because I became a lot more concerned about my health and my well-being. I didn't want, and I was getting a lot of brain fog when I was doing this too. I would get super tired. I have to take a nap for 2 hours after the workout, after I had that meal. And like, I got to the point where I'd be talking, couldn't like really finish a sentence, and it was really bad. And when you get up and you get older, you start to feel these effects a lot more. When I was in my early 20s, late teens, I could eat whatever and not feel it. But as you get older, you become a lot more sensitive to these things, and you guys are going to feel it. And whether you know it or not, when you're doing this when you're younger, you are doing damage to your body. Dare to be King asks, what are some of your recommended techniques for improving strength on big lifts, pin presses, pause squats, etc.? Some that come to mind. I've used pause squats before. My biggest recommendations for improving strength on the big lifts, probably conjugating, and not necessarily conjugating the way that Westside does it with like the safety squat bar or anything like that. But the biggest thing that improved my squat was when I moved into front squats and did a much harder form of the squat. That improved my core strength. It improved my structural integrity. It really improved my form on the high bar squat and made me a lot stronger. On the bench press, overhead pressing made me stronger on the bench press. As far as the deadlift goes, front squatting also made my deadlift a lot better. So I'd recommend trying to do those harder exercises that you might look like a fool when you first start doing them. For a lot of you, you might be able to squat 400 pounds, but you probably have a bit of difficulty front squatting 135 pounds in proper form when you use an Olympic rack. And I've said this throughout my time here on YouTube. You got to do those things that are really hard. You can't go into the gym and just want to impress everybody, so you just do the lifts that you're good at. You got to do the lifts that you suck at too. And you got to not be afraid of making yourself look like a fool. Even if you're working with a broomstick, you need to really work on the form. And for most of you, I really wouldn't get beyond into the pause squats or the bands or the chains at this point, because most of you are at the beginner level. If you're in the advanced level, then yeah, you could work with the bands, the chains, the pause squats, working with partial squats, pins, and things like that. But the biggest thing you need to work on, and the biggest thing that's going to improve your strength as a beginner, is working on the form, perfecting it, and becoming a master of the 3 big lifts and doing them perfect every time. Sorry. Next thing, Texas Iron Addict, one of my boys, a good friend of mine. If following a keto diet, what should I eat to reduce and avoid muscle cramps? A couple of things. The keto diet is going to cause you to lose a lot of water, right? And you're probably going to get a weight loss right off the bat at the beginning because you've lost tons of water. So my recommendation is to actually add salt to all your food. That will help you reduce a lot of cramps. The other really good thing that you could do is drink bone broth. Basically take a few marrow bones, throw them into a freaking crock pot, Pour some water in there, pour a bunch of salt, stick some vegetables in there if you want to, and then let it cook for 9 hours. Hold on a second, there's a notification up there. Let it cook for 9 hours and then drink that throughout the day, and that will also help to reduce muscle cramps. So increase your salt, drink bone broth, just make sure you're getting the sodium intake, and make sure you're drinking tons of fluids. You should be drinking a lot of water, at least half your body weight in fluid ounces plus 10 more ounces for your activity level. What is your go-to quick keto meals? I don't really have a go-to quick keto meal. I have scrambled eggs a lot of times in the morning with avocado. I will have, I do bulletproof coffee with grass-fed butter. I eat a lot of grass-fed butter throughout the day. I'll have coconut oil. But when you're doing keto, you also want to do a lot of vegetables, because if you're eating a lot of things like coconut oil and MCT oil, in and of themselves, if you're taking them by themselves, they can increase total body chronic inflammation. So you really want to balance there with a lot of vegetable intake. Other quick keto meals you could have, pretty much anything with meat and vegetables. A salad, a Cobb salad is one of my favorite meals on the go. Most restaurants have them. It's got avocado in it, it's got vegetables in it, it's got a little bit of protein in there. So that's probably my go-to keto meal when I'm on the road. 110 or nothing. Best way to correct insulin resistance, improve insulin sensitivity for the average Joe. Moderate your carbohydrate intake, train every day, and move as much as possible, right? So keep your carbohydrate levels lower. If you want, on your higher activity levels days, you can have higher amounts of carbohydrates. That means that you've done cardio, you've trained something like legs or something like that, and you've had a really high activity level day. Maybe you did a hike. That's when you could have a little bit higher carbohydrate level. But on most days, your carbohydrate level should be lower. I would say lower than 100 grams. I keep mine below 50 because I'm keto. But that's one of the best ways to increase insulin sensitivity. The second way is train. Studies have demonstrated that resistance training actually increases the receptor sites on your muscle cells, which will make you more insulin sensitive. So make sure you're training. 3, move as much as possible. So what do I mean by that? You're sitting, right? If you're eating and you have insulin going up in your body, regardless of what you're eating, right? And you sit there for the whole time afterwards, that blood sugar is going through your bloodstream and it has nowhere to go. So your insulin levels, your muscle cells are going to keep getting bombarded by insulin, and that can lead to insulin resistance. So my advice is every time after you eat, you should go for a 15-20 minute walk. And then for every hour you're sitting, you should get up and do a set of squats or walk around for a bit or do some sort of activity level. Keep moving throughout the day, move as much as possible. Hey Chris, I wanted to build my deadlift and squats. Should I only train each once a week so they can recover and grow, or train them whenever I feel they have recovered? I'm big on instinctual training. Now, there's a big movement out there, squat every day. My buddy Mike Rashid, he's been doing that for a while, and it seems to work for people. There's a hormonal benefit to it. It originally came up because of the Bulgarian method. This is also known as Bulgarian Light because they're only squatting once a day. The Bulgarian method, I think they were squatting to max 3 times a day. It was crazy. And what I'd say about that is that when we're talking about methods of training elite athletes, the coach who came up with this was Abajayev, and he went through hundreds of athletes and ruined them to create an elite formation of Bulgarians who were lifting like crazy. That means that these guys, their genetics was really high, they had great joints, everything was working for them. For you guys, what I would suggest is at the beginning, focus on the form. Above anything, don't worry about going heavy, don't worry about, stacking the weight on, focus on the form. Now, that being said, that means that you should be training the lifts often, right? And so if you feel like you've recovered after 2 or 3 days, go ahead and squat again. If you feel like you need to deadlift a couple of times a week, by all means do it. I normally recommend for people at the very beginning to focus on doing it once a week so that they can really get their repetitions in, and focus on getting the form down as much as possible. But once you're beyond that initial stage and your form is starting to get better, if you feel like you need to train it more, then by all means do it. Guys who do the conjugate method, they do all their lifts twice a week. They have a heavy day and then they have a more dynamic day when they're working on speed. So it really depends on where you are in your journey. Um, Luctronic, long-term keto diet, okay while getting enough selenium, or is it better to have some carbs every few days? I think a long-term ketogenic diet is 100% okay if you're getting enough selenium, you're taking Brazil nuts, and you're eating green vegetables to take care of your thyroid. Basically, he's referring to the ketogenic diet's propensity to reduce the amount of thyroid hormone you're producing. And so when thyroid hormone isn't being produced, then your metabolism starts to shut down because your brain is not being told to burn fat. So my suggestion is if you're on a long-term ketogenic diet, then yeah, you want to be having some Brazil nuts in there. You want to have selenium-rich foods because selenium actually helps the thyroid produce hormone. But for those of you who are power building or trying to put on muscle, I really do think that the cyclical ketogenic diet is a good way to go, where you are loading up carbohydrates after a workout on a really high activity day, a couple of times a week. It will still preserve your insulin sensitivity. You don't have to be on a ketogenic diet to burn fat. It's just one of the ways that you can burn fat. You can go on a cyclical ketogenic diet, include carbs in your diet, but when we're talking about a cyclical keto diet, it's smart use of carbs. It's not bulking where we're shoving carbs down our mouth, becoming fat, and then telling everybody how swole we are with pics on Instagram of us flexing our thigh or having like one little cut there and saying, holy shit, I'm jacked. So let's be smart about our carbohydrate consumption. I'm not anti-carb. I'm for smart carbohydrate consumption. Holton, 74. Will cutting back on sugar intake and intake of fats help me to get more cut in a shorter time frame? So, buddy, the biggest thing is calories, right? So if you're cutting back on sugar and you're cutting back on fats, you're cutting back on calories. So yeah, that's going to help you get cut in a shorter time frame. But here's the thing: if you want to get deeper into this, you want to think about your levels of inflammation. Well, what causes inflammation? We know that blood sugar fluctuations causes inflammation. So cutting back on sugar is probably a really good idea because you still have to consume a certain amount of calories to sustain yourself, especially if you're training. So in my mind, fat is an essential nutrient. You can live without carbohydrates. I would keep fats in my diet, but I'd push off a lot of that sugar. And a lot of you will find if you get rid of the piece of candy you're taking off the desk every day, or if you get rid of that beer you're drinking every weekend, or the 5 or 6 beers you're drinking every night, you'll lose a lot of fat. But either way, reducing your caloric intake is going to help you to burn fat quicker. It's just a matter of where you want to go with your body. Do you want your mind to follow with your body? Do you want your thought processes to be as effective as possible and fast as possible? Do you want to mentally perform as well as physically perform? And that's why I choose keto, and that's why I go low carbohydrate. So that's me. Your life is your choice. So that was Ask Chris episode 5. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. I hope it was super informative. I'm also running a special on my individualized programs this week, and the code is 2016. I will put a link on that below. Use the code 2016 and it will get you 50% off. Training for my show right now. It's coming up in less than a month. I think I'm looking pretty good, but the light here sucks. So, peace.